Do you find yourself overwhelmed by the thought of making a career transition? I've been there and I understand the challenges you face. That's why I created the Career Compass, the ultimate guide for high achieving corporate women to make career transitions with ease. The Career Compass breaks down the decision making process into 5 clear steps, helping you make savvy, empowered career decisions. Head over to KarenFreeland.com/career compass right now and download this invaluable resource. It's completely free and will get you on the path to a more fulfilling career. Go to KarenFreeland.com/career compass now. Welcome to Rock Your Reinvention, where I help high achieving career women like you get unstuck, make your corporate exit strategy, and successfully transition to your next chapter. Hi, I'm your host, Karen Freeland, a certified life coach and corporate exit strategist. Whether you want to start a business, become a speaker, or something else, I'm here to give you the tools and strategies to shift your mindset, build your confidence, and take bold actions so you can rock your reinvention. Ready? Let's go. Hi, friends, and welcome back to Rock Your Reinvention. Today, we are diving into 5 mistakes female entrepreneurs are making. And of course, I'm going to tell you how to fix them. I'm not just going to leave you hanging, but I got to be honest here. Just full disclosure before we even kick this off. I have made all of these mistakes in one fashion or another. So I'm not calling you out. There's no judgy here, right? We're all friends. I just want to help bring this to light because I know so many of you are thinking about leaving your corporate job, or you're already in business and maybe, you might be a couple years in, you might be several years in, and you might be making some of these, I don't want to call it basic mistakes, but easy to make mistakes. And here's the other thing to remember, that even though I've made all of these mistakes in one way or another in my business at some point, I still have a very successful business. So just because we make mistakes doesn't mean that our business is going to fail or that we're doomed. And I think that that's also important to note, because that also means it's easy to say, well, I've done that before and my business is fine. It didn't really hurt anything. So I'm just going to keep doing things the way that I do them. But in reality, we don't know what the outcome would have been without these mistakes. So we don't really know how much impact it would have had on us. And you just want to think of it more from a perspective of, well, how much more successful could I be if I fix these mistakes in the future? So whether you're new to entrepreneurship, you've been at it a while, doesn't matter. These 5 mistakes can prevent you from achieving your full potential. And I just want to help you address them now so that you can set yourself up for an amazing 2025. Can you believe it's less than 2 months away? It's crazy. I don't even know how that's possible. And yet here we are. So let's dive in. Mistake number 1, saying yes to everything. Are you guilty of this? I know, me too. Every opportunity, every request, every client, even the ones you know that aren't a good fit, you just can't seem to find the word no in your vocabulary. But here's the truth. You are saying no indirectly. You're saying no to balance, to true time freedom, to financial freedom. You're saying no to family, friends, maybe volunteer work. When we say yes to everything, we find our businesses take over and we have no room for anything else. This might be sounding familiar for you. And for most of us, this is exactly why we left corporate in the first place. It's like, what are we doing? I don't want to work 24/7. The other issue with yes is that oftentimes it takes us off course. So not only are we working 24/7, but we're actually going in a path or in a direction that doesn't even align with our business plan. Let me ask you this. When you get a request for your business, do you check the business plan? Like, do you go back and shore those up and be like, yeah, this is in alignment? Do you go and look and see, is this actually a fit with where I'm projecting my business to go? And I think if most of us are honest, we probably don't do that enough. And this actually just happened to me the other night. A friend that I volunteer with reached out to see if I could do a team building training for her husband's pest control business. Now, in theory and in talent, yeah, that is something that I could offer. Could that be a piece of my business? Sure. But does it align with my target market and my mission? Helping six-figure women leave their corporate job to start a business. Nope, sure doesn't. So guess what? I declined. I said no to that work. And some of us have probably heard this before. Just say yes and then figure it out later. I guarantee I've said this on the show before. Like, I have definitely said that. And to be fair, there are times when that's a fantastic strategy and it could be to your benefit. Like when they approached me for the monthly segment on the news, I said yes without hesitation, and then I knew I could just figure out how to do that later. And fortunately, that was very good because it was aligned with my ultimate goals and it helps me get credibility in the market. So that was a very good decision for my business. But sometimes we say yes and then figure it out, and it's actually harmful for us because we don't properly assess if this is the right move. So, how can you better discern what to say yes to and what you need to say no to? So, here's just a few strategies that I like to use. If you were a client of mine, this is probably the approach that we would take. First, I kind of teed it up already, is check your business plan. Every business owner needs a yearly plan, non-negotiable, okay? Must have one. And if you don't have one, this is your first order of business. And if you do, everything needs to get checked against that plan. And look, here's the thing. If it aligns with the plan, then it's an easy yes. If not, there's some more consideration that needs to be done. What is the benefit of taking on that new thing? And then you can make a decision about it from a place of abundance and strength and not fear or scarcity. What if I don't get any other work offered? Or what if this is my only shot? That kind of scarcity mindset. The other thing you can do is work through it with your coach. You want to brainstorm things like the pros and cons. Consider what you're giving up to take that on. I'd probably ask you some really thought-provoking questions to make sure you're not avoiding it because of confidence or imposter syndrome. And of course, you can always pray about it because ultimately only you and God know the answer to whether this is a good fit for you or not. So if you feel yourself falling victim to that first mistake of saying yes to quite literally everything, try a couple of these strategies so that you can realign to your business plan and find the courage to say no to some things that just don't align so you can have better work-life balance. Okay. Second thing I see a lot of female entrepreneurs doing is taking your persona as a corporate employee or leader into your business. And this one might surprise you, but I see the detriments of ex-corporate executives in entrepreneurship all the time, right? You tend to bring your workaholic 24/7 hustle hard mentality to your business. And before you know it, you're back in full-on burnout, if you even got to leave burnout at all. This is another reason that I recommend a lot of women take a break between their corporate job and starting their business. But this can also manifest in other behaviors, things like being really pushy or having that bossy tone in your business. I know some of you are known as a person who gets ish done. Like that was me, right? They were like, give it to Karen and she's going to run this thing down like a pit bull and she's not going to let go of it until she gets it. But this can rub your employees, your contractors, even clients who pick up on some of that a little bit the wrong way, okay? So we have to be really careful that some of those MOs that might have worked for us in our corporate life may not be the brand or the person that we want to show up as in our everyday entrepreneurship business. The next thing you you find that you have duplicated the culture that you hated because it's the only way that you actually know to run a business. And there's a better way, right? When you leave your corporate job and you start out as an entrepreneur, you get to totally redefine yourself. You get to figure out, who is this new persona that I want to be? So if you find yourself relying and falling back on your old habits and your old ways of doing business, your ex-corporate persona, then I want to invite you to do a couple of things. One, take a sabbatical. Even if you're already in the business, like, just take a little time off to really give yourself some space. And if you are thinking about leaving a business, make sure you build that into your exit plan so that you've got a break between your old life and your new life. And that might be a little, like a week, right? That might be 2 weeks. It might be a month. It might be 6 months, right? Everybody is different. You want to use this time to unwind, to rest, to redefine your goals that you want to carry forward and what old habits you want to let go of. Like, be intentional about this, really give this some thought. And also, like I said, the personal brand, really defining who you want to be, how you want to be known going forward. Is it that you want to be seen now as someone who's creative? I remember sitting down with a boss and he was like, why do you want to do marketing? He's like, you're so operational oriented. You're so process oriented. And I was like, what? No, that can't be me. Like, I'm creative. I love being creative. I have ideas for writing books, and I'm thinking all these things in my head. Of course, I'm not saying out loud, but I'm flabbergasted that he sees me as this operations guru and this very organized, process-driven person. And that was not who I actually wanted to be or who I identified with on the inside. So it was so freeing for me when I got to leave corporate, because I could now redefine and become that creative person. And people will say things to me all the time, like, oh my gosh, your book was so creative, or, oh, I love your marketing. It's so creative, or this or that. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like living the way that I actually want to be. So it's really important that we think about those things during that sabbatical time. The next thing you can do is set boundaries. Okay. Unlike corporate, you're now in control of everything. That can also be a little scary, but it's really a good thing. So you want to start establishing your working hours, right? Something as simple as saying, I'm going to be done at 4. I get done at 3. I don't work past 3. That's when I pick up my kids and then I'm done for the day, right? So you want to make sure you're setting the tone that you are not going to be available 24/7 for your clients. Or trust me, they will take advantage of that. And it's really helpful, I think, to schedule some time in your calendar for rest and self-care so that you can prevent burnout from happening in your business, especially in busy seasons. You've got to carve out that time. Okay, number 3. The third mistake that I see female entrepreneurs making is trying to do it all. I know. It's your business and you're the only one that's ever going to care about it the way you do. And guess what? To some extent, yes, that is true. It's your baby. But remember, you only have one view of the world, one view of how to achieve success. So when you bring other people to the party, you're going to allow them to help you grow, right? You get to tap into all these fresh new ideas and perspectives. So go ahead and hire some support, relinquish some control. It will be the best thing that you ever did. And that's going to look different for everyone. So I can't give you like a silver bullet, like this is who you need to hire first, and then you need to hire this person. But there's a couple of ways that I like to think about hiring, and it's really twofold. And so the first way is, how quickly can I get an ROI for that role? Like, how quickly am I going to make my money back? So I'll give you an example. I just started working with someone new on my podcast, and I've already had several suggestions come in from him, and I've been able to implement them, and I'm seeing people find the show more. Right? So my hope is that if my podcast starts bringing in, like, let's just say even one client a month, that is more than going to pay for those services to manage my podcast. right? So then it becomes not an expense at all, right? The hiring decision and bringing this person on is actually revenue generating. It's bringing me money. So that's the first thing you want to look at. It's like, how do you get this role set up so that it can actually filter money into your pocket, not just drain it? The second way I like to think about hiring is, what skill sets do I lack that someone can either fill the void for, or what skill is just not a good use of my time? So try as I might, learning WordPress makes me want to scream, cry, rip my hair out, right? It's like the bane of my existence. No, thank you. I don't want to learn how to use WordPress. So this is one of those things that makes absolute sense to outsource rather than painstakingly trying to figure out and waste countless hours that I could be using to coach, make a social post, write new freebie or content or something that's going to actually bring business in, right? Not to mention it's probably going to ruin my mental health. So like, what are those tasks or those things that you've been hanging on to, or maybe you're just trying to save money, but honestly, if you could just outsource it, it would improve your life and your business in so many facets, right? Like sometimes the mental health piece of it is actually the biggest win of all. So if you're finally ready to start hiring some support and stop killing yourself, here's how you can get started. Number one, make a big list. What are your biggest pain points that could be outsourced? List them all out. What would the ROI be for hiring someone to do this work? Go line by line, kind of figuring out what that ROI could be. And then you want to ask, can someone accomplish multiple items from my list? So for example, my virtual assistant used to do all of my web stuff. Like she would make my landing pages, she could write emails for me, and she could do my social posts, and she could do some of my podcast editing, right? So I was able to have one person who could do multiple things for me, which obviously saves a lot of money. It's a better investment. Then you can ask yourself, would it be better for a contractor to do this work, or do I actually need to hire an employee? Part-time, full-time, whatever that might look like. Or is there just a service, like somebody I can pay to go do this for me that doesn't even really contract for me, right? It's just maybe like you go onto a website and you upload something and they spit you back whatever you need. And then you can go out and work on getting that position filled, conducting interviews, whatever. But you've done your due diligence to really understand the need for this role, where those pain points that it's going to alleviate, how quickly you can make your money back, how that's going to contribute to the business, etc. You want to go through that process, okay? So the fourth mistake I see women making is working in the business versus working on the business. And some of you may be like, what the heck does that mean? What is the difference between working in the business and working on the business? So let me explain how I categorize this. When you're working in the business, that's anything that's client facing. Think client delivery, anything needed as a result of having some actual clients. Whereas I see working on the business as a lot of the overhead stuff, the marketing, filling your funnel, getting sales, anything that is really like the branding piece, right? To anything that's sort of external facing, but you're not really like interacting with a client per se. And of course, all the internal stuff, right? Like business planning and things like that is a lot of working on the business. The reason I see this as a problem is that I see a lot of women getting the ratio out of whack. And again, I can't give you an exact percentage. I wish I could, right? That would be great. I'd probably be a millionaire. It's not like I can say 60% of your time should be client facing and 40% you've got to be working on the business. There isn't exactly a secret formula, but you do need to be aware of how you're spending your time and where the gaps might be for you. So for example, let's say you spend all your time recording podcasts and posting stuff on social, but you never actually make any offers and have discovery calls with your clients. Well, then you're working on the business too much, but you're not doing enough inside of the business, right? Doing the brand building, but not actually growing your roster of clients. It's like, brand building's important, but if all you're doing is brand building, what are you doing it for? Because you don't have any clients. And in other cases, you might get so caught up serving your clients that you stop posting on social. You're not doing those free webinars anymore. And then all of a sudden your funnel dries up and you're like, oh no, what do I do? What happened to my business? Right? So there you've got too much time in the biz and not enough time on the business bringing in those new clients. And I see this in a lot of seasoned business owners. They've been at it for 4, 5, 6 years, and all of a sudden they're concerned because they just stopped growing. They're like, what happened to my business? It's like, well, you stopped marketing yourself. You stopped putting yourself out there and you didn't fill the funnel, right? Maybe relying too much on referrals, things of that nature. So if you find yourself in this situation, it may be because you are spending too much time in the business or on the business, right? It's going to be different for everybody depending on the stage of business that you're in. So the first thing you want to do is start by tracking your daily activities for a week, at least a week, okay? If you can do it for 2 weeks, even better, because sometimes we have just, a busy week. Or like me, I run my client calls every other week. So all of my clients I see in 1 week and then they have an off week. And so that helps me just organize things. But if I only take what I do for the week that I'm on, it's going to look like the majority of my time is spent on calls and servicing clients, where the following week it's different, right? And I'm barely seeing any clients, if any at all. Again, that's why there's no perfect science, but start understanding, where are you spending your time? So if you're on a client call, let's say from 9 to 10, that's in the business time. So you would actually code that like, okay, this is the time that I'm working in my business. I'm client facing. And then from 10 to 10:30, I do a bunch of social posts. Okay, that's me working on the business. And you just keep going through your day, tally up the times at the end of each day, and you can start to see where things might be unbalanced. Then you can ask yourself, what tasks are you hiding behind or avoiding? So for example, I see a lot of women spend all this time making freebies. Oh, I need another free thing. I need another brochure or another whatever piece of marketing material. But they never take it the next step and actually personally DM people their freebie to move them forward in the funnel. They're like, well, they'll just find it online, but maybe they're not signing with me because I don't have enough freebies. Like, oh, you have to take it that next step, right? You have to do the uncomfortable thing of going live or, sending someone a DM. But you're not, because you're hiding behind that other activity to say you're busy, because you have a limiting belief that, oh, people are going to judge me, or if I say something wrong on social, it's going to start an argument, right? So you need to really get clear on what's holding you back, and then we can address that so you can get the ratio of working in your business versus on your business right. So give that some thought, and I think this will definitely shift things for you if this is the area that things have been off in. Okay, tip number 5, the last one I want to give you for today, is that you might be outsourcing the wrong things. Okay, this is a big mistake, especially for newer entrepreneurs, but it can definitely happen to anyone. So let me start off first by giving you a little kudos, because I'm proud of you for outsourcing. So yay, that's good, because it means that you're relinquishing control. You're not falling victim to mistake number 3 and trying to do it all. So I love that. But we just need to make sure you're outsourcing the right things. So for example, editing your podcast, that is a beautiful thing to outsource, right? Because that is, for me, it's just a time suck, right? Like I'm not that good at it either. So it's better for me to hire somebody who can do it in a fraction of the time and makes it sound really good than me, again, trying to painstakingly cobble that together. So that's a good thing to outsource. But what about your vision, your standards, right? No, like we got to keep that close to the vest. And I bet you're listening thinking, Karen, well, who would do that? Who would actively outsource their vision or their standards? Well, me, for starters. Let me explain. And it wasn't intentional. And that's why I bring this up, because it's a slippery slope and we often don't realize that we're doing it until we take some time to do some reflection. So when I first hired my virtual assistant, I was so excited. I mean, here I was, a solopreneur, and I finally had someone that I could talk to about my business, that I could strategize with, who would actually understand everything that I was going through. At the same time, I also felt like now on reflection, I would lay a lot of my frustrations at her feet. I just can't figure out how to grow my Instagram, or why aren't these kinds of clients showing up, or, just like all the things that weren't working, I would just like dump on her. And then I would expect her to have an answer for how to fix it. Right. And I was really shirking my responsibility as the CEO of my business because I was scared to make decisions. And again, like I said, this without coming out and saying it, right? I was really expecting her to own my vision. And that's never a recipe for success. And so there were consequently times where I felt like the strategy or the vision or just it started to get out of alignment. And this is not her fault, not even a little bit. It is my fault for not maintaining control over those things as the leader. So I really want to caution you as you think about what to outsource to make sure that you're choosing the right things so that you, as the CEO of your business, are keeping the things that you really need close to you. So if you think you might have been outsourcing some of the wrong things, again, don't worry. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. We can fix this. And there's a couple of ways to bring this back into alignment. So the first thing I would offer up is that you've got to define for yourself your core responsibilities as the CEO. You've got to retain vision and strategy for sure. But this also will include things like your branding, right? You, especially if you're the face of your brand, right? A lot of that high-level decision-making, anything that involves your finances. Now, for those of you with bigger businesses, I'm not saying you don't set some thresholds. Like if you need to make a purchase of under $500, you have full reign, right? Or if you have a bigger business, maybe it's something under $20,000. I mean, right? This is going to scale with you because you can't be, when you're running a multiple $1 million business, you can't be like, oh, someone needs to order pens for the office. Like, right? Obviously, you need to start letting go of some of that control. But you're not going to be like, okay, person in accounting, do you think that we should buy this business? Right? Like, you're not relinquishing those bigger, higher level financial decisions. So get really clear on your specific responsibilities as the CEO and make sure that they make sense. The second thing you can do, if this is feeling out of whack, is take a CEO day. And I do this every 2 weeks. I have what I call a CEO day. And this is a day for me to go back and review all the tasks that I've delegated, make sure that I'm not foregoing any of my leadership responsibilities. But you can also review your business plan. Look at your finances, your expenses, your income. Has everybody paid up on time? Is there anything that's delinquent? Is there any expenses that I don't recognize in my business bank account? Like just going through all those things. What's my forecasted revenue? Am I hitting targets? Am I behind? Like this is what we need to be doing, even as solopreneurs, okay? And anything else that you've been neglecting around your vision and strategy, like you're going to want to make sure that you're looking at those things as well. And then the next thing that you're going to want to do is create some clear SOPs. If you don't have them already, you really, before you outsource anything, right, you need to make sure that you have some step-by-step instructions for the tasks that you want to delegate. And sometimes you might be developing that together because this just might be an area that you're not super sure about, but you want to make sure that whoever you're working with is helping you document their process. And this is going to help ensure that those standards are maintained. And so even when someone else is doing the work, they're doing it to your level and your quality and what you expect. This could also include, some KPIs, some benchmarks for quality, all those kinds of things can be included inside your SOP. So before I wrap up, I have one more little bonus thing I want to share with you. But the 5 mistakes, again, that I see female entrepreneurs making is number 1, saying yes to everything. Number 2, taking your ex-corporate persona and bringing it into your business. Number 3, trying to do it all. Number 4, working in the business versus working on the business and not getting that ratio right. And then number 5 is outsourcing the wrong things. But there's one more piece of advice that I want to share with you today. that isn't necessarily a mistake, but still warrants being discussed. And that is that you should not negotiate with your coach. And if you're here and you're listening to me, then by default, even if you're not paying me, I'm your coach, right? And I want you to catch yourself when you start thinking things like, yeah, but Karen, you don't know my situation. You don't know my financial background. I'm not that good at XYZ. So I really can't do what you're prescribing. I'm not ready to hire or blah, 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 right? All the different things that you might be making excuses for. And all this is going to do is keep you stuck. Right? It's going to prevent you from moving forward. And so you really need to, at this point, dig a little bit deeper and start asking yourself, why are you trying to negotiate with your coach? What is it that you don't believe can work and why? Because as long as you try to negotiate with me or anyone, you're going to stunt your growth. You're going to minimize your success. And there's a million reasons we do this. Again, like I've done this with my coach. Sometimes it's self-worth. Sometimes it's past trauma that comes back to haunt us. It's our money mindset, right? Like the list goes on of underlying reasons why we might do this. So that's why we need to do the work. And I want to invite you to start listening to these podcast episodes and then adopting and implementing what I'm sharing, because that's how you actually change your situation, right? Just simply listening to this podcast and then going, yep, well, that won't work for me, and then moving on with your day is not going to fix your business, right? It's not going to change anything for you. But if you start saying, okay, you know what? This feels a little uncomfortable. I'm not sure, but I'm going to trust Karen because she does this for a living. She's coached hundreds of women. I think she knows what she's talking about. Let me just do the uncomfortable thing I don't want to do. You have nowhere to go but up. Things can only get better for you. So if you're like, I'm making all 5 of these mistakes, Karen, I don't even know where to start. I'm super overwhelmed. Just take a deep breath. It's all good. I've made them all too. All you have to do is start by picking one. Start working on one first. Just think about it. Which one do you think would make the biggest impact on you? Like maybe for you, it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. If I could just hire one person, if I could get that virtual assistant or whoever it is to help me deliver, or take some of the marketing off my plate or whatever, that would be the thing that would make this so much easier for me. Great. Let's just start there. Okay. So make an action plan for how you're going to tackle your first mistake, how you're going to remedy that. We don't need to get overwhelmed because this isn't a race. We're all on our own journey. And then you just put one foot in front of the other and start chipping away at these. Okay. I believe in you. I know you can do this. You wouldn't have started a business in the first place if you weren't capable of doing this. So you got this. But now you know these 5 mistakes and you can avoid from making them going forward. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're inspired to take action by committing to one of the tips or strategies we talked about in today's episode. If you want more accountability and support, I've got your back. Book a complimentary Empowered Exit Strategy call today. Visit KarenFreeland.com to learn more and book your 45-minute session. Until next time, stay fabulous.